according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, and you may be children of your heavenly Father. For he makes his sun rise on the bad and the good, and causes rain to fall on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what recompense will you have? Do not the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brothers only, what is unusual about that? Do not the pagans do the same? So be perfect, just as your heavenly Father is perfect." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to the Lord Jesus Christ.
Ulang adlaw kanatong tanan. Love or loving the enemy, as the Gospel reading practically emphasizes today, is not only in the area or in the realm of liking. Liking is just an aspect of love. There is a higher level to it, which is so much related to respect. And that is what the Lord is actually trying to underline when he said, love your enemies. It's not in the area of accepting them, because of course enemies we cannot really accept, or we cannot really like. But then the sense of respect that we give, that pierces deep into the very dignity of the person, where the image of God, because we are the image of Christ as well, can be found and given due respect. And I would like to bridge this with what St. Paul is actually talking to the Corinthians. By the way, the second letter of Paul to Corinthians is the most personal of all the letters of St. Paul. And here in this context of today's first reading, related to the so-called collection for Jerusalem for the poor, he's talking about generosity as actually the test for one's concern and practically attitude towards others. And generosity is very much something that comes from the genes, from the deep within. And I think the best way to take into perspective here is when we are generous, we don't mind whatever the cost is. That's why there is a very beautiful prayer, in fact, turned into a song, attributed or by St. Ignatius of Loyola, no? Which goes this way. I think we're familiar with it. Lord, teach me to be generous. Teach me to serve you as I should. To give and not to count the cost. To fight and not to heed the wounds. To toil and not to seek for rest. To labor and ask not for reward, save that of knowing that I do your most holy will. And that is what St. Paul is actually trying to underline. To be generous is to follow the will of God, who is overly generous to us by giving up his Son for all our sakes. Amen.